Jess, we are here on episode 5, and this is probably going to be one of my favorite ones. And here's what the problem is, you all, is so we've been discussing Maslow's mountain, hierarchy of needs. And Jess, we, including myself, the biggest problem that we have is we stand on top of that mountain and we speak down to the avatar. I don't mean like down as in negative. I mean, we look down and we say, hey, avatar, come on up here where we are. But the problem is sometimes, Jess, we have a tendency to have an avatar problem. We speak to too many and we speak to too high of the desires and the needs there. So we're going to talk about that today.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a great conversation. It sounds simple, and yet we know that so many coaches struggle with it. And
Yes.
I know the last couple episodes, we talked about your messaging, we talked about your marketing, but none of that lands if you don't have clarity on the avatar and how to specifically talk to them or reach them. And so that's why I feel like this is an important conversation for us to have in the context of this series.
Yeah. Because let's be real here for a second. You feel like you're speaking to the right avatar. You feel like you're speaking to an avatar, and yet you're converting nobody, right? If you're not converting anybody, take a look at this specific one to say, wow, is not only my language, which we talked about last time, but am I really focused on a singular avatar or a singular? I mean, avatar is such a fun word to use. That's what we use, Jess. Though some people will say client, some people will say my ideal person. So that's what we're speaking about when we say avatar.
Or my other favorite acronym that I learned was ICP, Ideal Customer Profile. Like there's lots of industry lingo, but the gist of it is who is the right person for your offer? And how are you speaking to them? How are you connecting with them? And how are you sharing who they are to people who might not be that ideal customer, but they might know that ideal customer?
And you know what I love that you said there is because we just came off of our challenge, and our challenge is the sellable offer challenge. And there are so many generalists out there, Jess. There's so many generalist coaches out there because they like to coach to everything or in our language here, nothing, because they're not coaching to a payoff. But I love what you just said there is coaches have to identify the payoff, which then helps them identify the avatar. And if they don't do that and they don't know what problem they're solving, then they actually have no idea what avatar they're actually going after.
Yeah.
And the crazy part about that is coaching, when used as a this is what I do, is such a generalist approach. And therefore, when they go out and attract, they use generalist avatars.
Yeah. Well, I don't mean this to sound negative to anybody who's gone through it, but going through like the International Coaching Federation ICF certification to become a life coach annoys the flip out of me because I'm like, great, now you have a piece of paper that says you're allowed to talk about life. You know, that is like the most generalist coaching in the world in my head. Granted, I have not gone through it. I can't speak to it. I am sure there's lots of value in it for the people who go through it. But at the same time, that is not what we talk to, speak to, coach to in our world, because we know that having that defined payoff and then being able to be known for it is the thing that generates expertise, authority, trust, referrals, more so than a piece of paper and credentials.
That's right. So let's go into what we're doing. Is I want you all, listener wise, to sit with you have an avatar problem. Okay? You may think you know who your avatar is, but here's the general way to answer if you have that right. Do you have enough clients? And if you don't have enough clients, you might have an avatar problem. Jess, we can be fully transparent here. How many avatar problems have we had? We've had many avatar problems, right? It's attracting the right avatar based on the desire that you want to have for the payoff, meaning the client is going to receive. Okay, so let's go and help them identify this. How do we help them in this space to identify who they're actually built to serve?
Well, I think first and foremost, we have to go back to our buddy Rory Vaden, which we've quoted, I think, every single episode of this series.
We should get royalties there or play the old drinking game. How many times can they say Rory Vaden or you're most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were? Take a shot, right?
Exactly. But that's the key thing here is it's not about the piece of paper certification. It's about who you were and what journey you've walked and how you
Yes.
have solutions to problems and how you can help people who are walking in the same shoes or the same path right behind you.
Hmm.
And so, how to identify who you're actually built to serve? When we ask that question for people, we ask, who were you? You have to do a little bit of a uh, autobiographical analysis to really figure out your avatar. And it doesn't mean what is your last job role. It doesn't mean what is the last industry you worked in, but it's more focused on where have you had success in overcoming something, in solving problems, and how does that align with how you want to show up in the world and serve others?
Yeah. Yeah, it's very, very true, and again, that goes back to being a generalist versus a specialist,
Mhm.
and most people just get a little scared with becoming a specialist in a space because, well, I'm not appealing to the masses. We don't want you to appeal to the masses. Do not appeal to the masses. That is not what we want you to do. We want you to almost appeal to a very small subset of the masses because you are a specialist in this space. That's
Well,
it.
a perfect example of this, I know we use medical stuff a lot, but that's where my context comes from, is I cannot tell you the majority of the nurses that were in my son's NICU room or cardiac ICU room. But you
Mhm,
bet your bottom dollar I can name first and last name the doctor who did my son's heart surgery.
mhm,
There is a big difference between being a generalist nurse and being a specialist cardiac surgeon.
mhm.
And that's what we're asking you to be precise in and become known for is a specialty in a coaching field. Because when I think, "Oh, I've got a cardiac question," I don't go try to find one of the random nurses. I'm like, "No, I wanna ask the surgeon or the cardiologist directly about the thing because I trust them, I know them, they have authority, I respect what they're gonna say, and I believe that they have my best interest in mind because they've done it so frequently over and over with others."
Right.
And that's what we're trying to get at here for you is again, it's not about the industry or the role, but it's about what have you lived, experienced, and overcome and or helped others overcome in such a way that you can be trusted and known specifically for that so that you're the first person that people think of when somebody says, I have this problem.
Mhm. That's right. And then as it relates to Maslow here is once you have that identified, it's funny, Jess. I shared this with you earlier. YouTubers, if you're watching, I'm holding a piece of paper here. And this was from my college tennis playing days of my coach giving me feedback, but me also having to go through and identify strengths and weaknesses per stroke in tennis. So serves, volleys, forehands, backhands, you name it. Mindset was even in there. And what's really interesting as we're talking about this was from 96, so 30 years ago, Jess. That's just dumb to me that that was 30 years ago because it feels like it was just yesterday. I can remember that coach making me puke all the time, but that's a whole nother podcast. And yet then I went to go teach tennis, right? I
Hmm.
went to go teach tennis after this career was finished, and I was teaching tennis because that's generalist. But when I look at this, where should have specialized in was serving, right?
Mm,
I was a great serve and volleyer in tennis. And that's what it says right here, even from 30 years ago. And my favorite line, Jess, that it has right here is weaknesses from a serve standpoint. This is my writing. Weaknesses, they're pretty minimal. I'm a damn good server, is what I put here. 30, 30 years ago, my ego was still driving things. Okay, pause for a second. And now let's go to Maslow. So when we're on top of the mountain and we are a damn good server, you have specialized, you can coach that specific action. You can't look down at that mountain where the avatar lives, right? And I say that looking down because you need to know where they are on Maslow's hierarchy of needs and say, you too can have a world-class serve. Hey,
yeah.
this
But
is what I need you to. Mhm.
oh, well, oh, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. You were saying that's what I need you to do. And that's where I was headed was the thing is you too can be a world-class server, but here are the steps that you need to take to get there. And I will
That's right.
walk next to you the whole way is the
No.
key that
Yes.
everybody forgets. They're so good at talking about being named a world-class server and being able to coach to being a world-class server that they forget to go back down and basically relive the journey with each avatar client.
Right.
And so it's so important that when you find somebody you know that you can help coach, you go meet them where they are on the mountain. And
Hmm.
so I love that you're bringing this up because that is the whole point of this series is referencing that mountain and helping you understand as a coach that your journey on the mountain is not just to climb it once, but
Right.
it's to literally be able to go up and down and up and down and up and down with every single client that has that same problem that you've identified and you've become a specialist in. So
Hmm.
much so that you're the most sought out guide or Sherpa to climb that mountain ever. So
Yeah.
anytime somebody sees that mountain, the first person that they want to go to get up the mountain is you. That
That's right.
that is what we are speaking to right now.
Yeah. And again, let's go back to the title of this podcast is the avatar problem,
Mhm.
right? Again, the avatar problem is not the avatar's problem. It's you have an avatar problem because you don't know specifically what you solve to go find the right person that wants to become the world-class server.
Well, yes. And let's also talk about here how you talk about your avatar, which is part of the
Mhm.
reason you're having trouble connecting with them.
Good. Love it. Let's go.
I so when you're standing at the top of the mountain, you can look down and be like, "Well, I help upcoming tennis professionals create the systems and strategies to develop a world-class serve." Like that
Mhm.
sounds like top of the mountain language, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
What you need to do is talk about where they are. And
Yes.
and when you're in public, you need to have a very clear, simple, singular sentence statement that doesn't include a lot of jargon from whatever niche you're in that people can understand and hang their hat on. What I mean
Mhm.
by that is too often we have people who will go to a dinner party, a networking event, whatever, and they have crafted some multi sentence or run on sentence that has 47 commas in it, trying to squeeze everything they know and everything they can do into one breath. And yet it's so convoluted and messy or jargon heavy that people don't land with it.
Mm.
They don't remember them except that they were overwhelmed by their statement.
Mhm.
So there actually is a negative emotional reaction to the verbal vomit.
Yep.
And so when you have very clear understanding of who you help and how you help them, it becomes easier to start creating a simpler statement, which in the I Love Coaching world, we call this the relevance pitch.
Mhm.
And it's because you don't want people to tune out or self select out because you say, I only serve collegiate, semi professional tennis players. If I
Right.
said that, then any person who wasn't a semi professional collegiate tennis player would be like, or who doesn't know them, be like, I'm out
Right.
mentally or physically. I don't need this. This is not
Right.
related to me.
Right.
But if you say, I help people, I help entrepreneurs, I help athletes, I help women, I help men, if you start more vague and then you name your problem and your solution so simply, more people will then engage with it and want to ask more questions, which then makes it easier to talk about things without being a verbal vomiter.
Yeah. Now let's go. We had in our challenge a very intelligent individual. This individual was probably one of the biggest brain people that I know I had personally worked with. And he lived in that space of being so knowledgeable
Hmm.
about the solutions that he could provide to the problem with the avatar that he could talk for 5 straight minutes. And
Yeah.
actually he did in the beginning. And what was so fun to watch him by the end of the 3rd day, he literally took a 5-minute explanation to us in the beginning and narrowed it down to a very simple, almost like what, maybe a 5 or 6 word
Hmm.
sentence? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's I help people become more successful with less effort. was, I think, how he ended from that 5-minute monologue. And and
I love
again,
that.
and his part of the pushback that we got initially was, well, I need to be specific and I need to be interesting.
Right.
And you're right to an extent, but not so specific that people self-select out. That's the key thing
Mhm.
about the relevance pitch is if
Right.
you're standing in a large room or you're standing at a dinner party with 20 people, all eyes on you, and you get one sentence, you do not want every person at the dinner table to pull out their phone or turn to their neighbor. You want them to be like, you want them to ask more questions.
Mhm.
So you have to have a simple sentence that is interesting enough to ask more questions around.
Yep.
And that's where I think people struggle with this avatar problem is they immediately go towards the niche language and they make people ignore them by being too specific too fast. So hear this if you're listening and you're like, wait, you just said be specific and then don't be specific.
Right.
You be specific internally and through your enrollment process, but you don't be that specific public facing because referrals are going to be your best friend. We are relational beings. It's a relationship based business.
Mhm.
And you want people to connect you to your avatar because they understand the problem that you solve for your avatar. And
That's
if
right.
you are jargon heavy, too specific, then they are not going to remember enough to connect you with your avatar.
Mhm.
So
Yep. Very
internal niched, external relevant.
Yep. That's so good. And again, what we are defining here for you and helping you solve is this avatar problem, right? The avatar problem simply stating that you are in a space of not attracting the right who's,
Hmm.
right? You're not attracting the right who's. And we've lived in this space before because of the language that we used. And we talked about this in the last podcast around marketing that will work for you, and the podcast before that around messaging. And this all is something that you need to consistently be paying attention to until you find the right avatar that lands or is aligned with, as Jess just kept saying, you're basically your problem solution cycle.
Hmm. Well, and you don't have to make it hard. I mean, I love coaching helps people build businesses from their unique experience.
Yep. That's it.
Interesting. Tell me more about that.
Mhm.
The Jess
Yes.
Webber brand helps people create a clear path through their information to their outcome, right?
Right. Mhm.
Interesting. How does that work? Like,
Mhm.
your language here needs to be so easy that you don't have an avatar problem.
That's right.
And if you're ever struggling with that, then it's something that we would challenge you to connect with others and get feedback on because I think that the worst language that we hear comes from the people who build in a silo the most.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, when you're building in a silo, it's one of those things where you may not know that you're doing it,
Mhm.
right? And we see this all the time until you hear, "I need that solution," or, "Oh, I
Mhm.
need that community," or, "Oh, I need proximity to that individual." And then when you get that, you're like, "I've been hiding in this little silo that I really don't have a clear path on direction of what I'm doing."
Well, and I think that people hide in a silo because they have imposter syndrome because they're building something new and they don't have confidence in what they're building because they don't
Mhm.
have clarity on a specific problem that they solve.
Mhm. You know what's so neat about that? This is where we get to shamelessly plug the community.
I
Is
don't know what you're
because
talking
at
about. No,
the
I
end
didn't I
of
didn't
the I mean, we've had podcasts around this before, and I do believe this sentence to be true, and I'm gonna use it in the context of this podcast, is it doesn't start with why, and it does start with who. Right? So
Mhm.
as it relates to this podcast, we're talking about the right who's, though we're talking now from a coach, you, the coach perspective, that who you surround yourself with really does matter because you're probably building in a silo right now anyway. And you
Mhm.
know who we are speaking to. You feel it internally right now that they said, shoot, Jess and Adam said, I'm building in a silo. And you're like, well, at least they can't see me. We
Yeah.
know what you're feeling right now with when we say you're building a silo because that is a high, large percentage of coaches. Just we've met a few in the last month or so that are amazing coaches with amazing backgrounds, and some of them with amazing revenue
Mhm.
that are doing it by themselves. They're doing it by themselves, and they've just gotten, I'm gonna say lucky, but they've just gotten to a point where they're at a ceiling now, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is okay, but it's not great, and I'm gonna need some help." And what we identify for them is that path and that placement, if you will, on how to continue to grow it, and it all starts with the avatar.
It really does. And
Mhm,
it like I said at the beginning of the podcast, it's simple, but it's not always easy, but it's way
mhm.
easier if you leverage feedback.
Yes,
And
yes.
so that's why we're having this conversation with y'all is because we ourselves, Adam and I, have gotten so much feedback from people we know, like, and trust on our avatar and our positioning, and we constantly are upgrading our website, changing the language to better align, being very intentional with our lines, our relevance pitches, things like that to our avatar. And
Mhm.
so it's a constant evolution of getting feedback through connecting with other humans,
Right.
whether it's connecting with your avatar or connecting with people who know your avatar and can speak to it. But
Mhm.
to eliminate the avatar problem, you have to be open.
Yeah, you definitely have to be open. I mean, we'll create and share here some of our own progression is with our challenge. Our challenge used to be called the 10K coaching offer challenge. We
Mhm,
ran that 5, 6, 7 times, had success, though the feedback we got helped us identify an even clearer avatar,
mhm.
a more specific one, and we changed it to sellable offer.
Yeah.
Right? We literally changed it to sellable offer. Same thing with our intensive. We called it the $250,000 coach intensive. It is now called, just drum roll.
The scalable offer intensive.
Yes,
And
scalable
part
offer.
of that came from feedback that originally
That's right.
we named things based on a desired monetary outcome for a different defined avatar. So the quarter million coach intensive or the 10K coaching offer challenge, those were named for an old version of an old avatar. And when we got clearer and we got feedback, we pivoted the language of our avatar. We ran it through the Maslow mountain filter and then we renamed things. So we haven't pivoted our core pillars, our core beliefs, our core teaching, but we pivoted our language to better align. So we Adam and I took some, of our own medicine and climbed down the mountain essentially.
That's right.
And that to me right there is what we do so well helping others in is in, in the sense of the community, in the sense of the challenge, in the sense of the intensive. And
Yeah.
so, you know, if you are somebody who has been doing this alone, whether you've made $100 or $1 million, I can guarantee you that if you're building alone, there's still an opportunity for feedback and improvement that can help you grow. And
Mhm.
so that's where, I'll do the invite here of please check out ilovecoachingco.com and you will see our upcoming events. You are welcome to connect with us in our community because truly this is what we know to be true that coaches should not be building alone. Coaches need coaches.
Yeah. And a great example, literally this was just from yesterday in our community at 9:22. A coach shared exactly what we're talking about. Hey, I've got a master class. I need 3 to 5 honest opinions of it, right? So this coach is putting it out there that he's created something and he wants more eyes on it to give him the feedback so that he understands the actual process. Now he understands who the avatar is specifically, and he'll probably go out and have more success than had he had done it by himself.
Hmm. Exactly
Yep,
that.
for sure. Okay. So landing the plane here, you've already done a good job of plugging the ilovecoachingco.com website. Is I want to engage those who do want to not build in a silo. Go to ilovecoachingco.com and go to the events tab. You'll see we have 2 events that we consistently run, and we want you to engage in one of those. Grab one of those events, come register, and come hang out with us and let us continue to help and serve you. Jess, anything you want to say
Exactly.
there?
No, that's it. We are here to serve, and thank you so much for listening.
Yes. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. See you. Bye.